The first place of cost, of course, is, well, you have to store that data somewhere. And the cost of storage overall has trended downwards over the last several decades, right? The amount of storage capacity increases and the price of that cost has decreased. The same is equally true of even cloud storage. We've seen cloud storage also, the cost of that coming down as well, too, and getting a bit more hyper-focused on use cases. The challenge, of course, is, as you highlighted, and much to my lament as a security practitioner, one of the best answers we have to combat ransomware is, well, we need to make multiple copies of our data. And so, to your point, you need to have not less than 3 copies of that data. And it gets referred to differently. Most folks will categorize that as a primary, secondary, and archive backup. Within the context of Veeam, you may have that, you may have your backup infrastructure architected such that you have a performance tier where that primary copy sits, and then some scale out tiers where the secondary and then archive copy sits. But as you make full copies, full duplications of that data for the purpose of having that data, again, it simply adds up. If we did some back of the napkin math and just made up some numbers and said it costs $1 per copy, well, now I'm at $3 for those copies, right? But we're not quite done. Making data immutable adds yet another cost. The cost associated with making data immutable is that you have to make the data unchangeable. That is the necessity for immutability, which means that as you create new versions of the data, right? So you have nightly backups, weekly rollups, et cetera, and those also need to be immutable. You're going to need to create a full extra copy of that. The clearest, most demonstrable way to see this is actually in cloud storage. If you need to make data immutable, right? So like, within Veeam console, you press the immutability button and it's going to enable an object lock and it's going to turn on version control. Those are great controls. And in another talk, we can talk about some of the challenges associated with that. But the cost challenges, well, it adds a full additional copy. But to your point, Kirsten, we also need to keep that data in multiple locations. So whether that data is on premises and you need to have, again, network connections to other physical locations, which all have costs associated with them, or you need to move them from regions A and B, et cetera, in the cloud, there are fees associated with that. And all we're still working with here is still just that first primary copy. That's it, just that primary data. But we've now made 4 additional copies of that data. That also introduces the cost for moving that data around. Again, if you're in a conventional space where you're on premises, that network connection between location A and B isn't $0. You've got to pay for that pipe. In the cloud, the same is true. You're going to pay for API fees. You're going to pay for egress fees. You're going to pay replication fees. You're going to pay fees, unfortunately, in the cloud for everything. One of the real hidden costs in the cloud is, if you've ever looked at your cloud bills, it's that it looks like a phone bill. Even the budget storage providers that are coming in at $6, $7, $8 a terabyte, what you're going to see is that they have tiered pricing for API fees, and that's where you're also going to encounter some additional costs there. And then finally, there's just the labor and time associated with some of the complexities around ensuring that that data is in multiple copies, is in multiple locations. To your point, Kristen, has been tested, and we know that it is usable when we need it.